very appreciative to those members of the press who are here, because unless we get exposure for the problems that face us here on the Texas and Louisiana Gulf Coast, we'll not be able to do the job. But thank you all for coming, and with that, I guess we take your questions.
I have a question. President Bush, you were here 2 years ago with Mr. Clooney when you donated the $2 million that helped build this hospital that withstood the Hurricane Ike, built under stronger codes. Your thoughts on what you've seen today?
Dramatic changes in this hospital. Manifestation of that. It's the state of the art. It's a wonderful facility, and now what it needs is the visibility of cameras coming back, and more people come into this beautiful facility here. But it's here, it's available, it's helping. Trauma kids work in the trauma area right now, people offshore, people from highway accidents, whatever, they're prepared to serve them. But I'm very proud of what they've done. I'm old enough to remember Hurricane Audrey coming down here 52 years ago. I was in the offshore drilling business. We had an office here in Cameron, and so I have some history in the area. And it was devastating then. The only thing better about this last storm is there wasn't that much of a loss of life as there was back in 57. But this is a resilient area, and the people that we heard from today, the determination is very, very moving, reiterated by the governor, I might add. But no, I feel confident.
President Bush, tell me your response or your thoughts about FEMA's response after Hurricane Ike, as in regards to Texas and Louisiana, and your thoughts on the DFIR maps as well, what you've heard so far today.
Well, I think there needs to be a little leadership given to FEMA in terms of seeing the light on some of the problems that the governor was talking about, but I'll leave that to him. I'm out of all that now. Gainfully unemployed is what. Want to comment on the FEMA situation?
Certainly.
We did discuss it with some very good input from local people here.
We did, and I want to commend, we've got many of the folks standing behind the cameras. We've got many of the leaders from Cameron Parish, Southwest Louisiana. They did a wonderful job briefing the President and the Secretary. We're certainly optimistic with the interim, not interim, but the designee for FEMA. Craig's not been confirmed yet, but so he's not in a position to make any decisions. But one of the things that gives us optimism about his leadership is the fact that he comes from the state of Florida. He's been through multiple hurricanes, and secondly, he's actually been an active partner with Louisiana. We worked with Florida as we went through our hurricanes last year. Craig actually has come to the governor's mansion in his former role. We've met with him and other state leaders. So I'm optimistic based on the fact that he does have a state perspective and a state background. Now again, he can't make any decisions or firm commitments until after he's confirmed, and so we're waiting for his confirmation, because until there's new leadership at DHS, in the FEMA shop in particular, really they're stuck on pause right now. They're not making these big decisions until they get a new administrator. But we're optimistic with his announcement. I said at the time, I was pleased with his announcement. I think that he brings the kind of practical, on-the-ground experience that'll be helpful to FEMA, and hopefully having somebody who's been through storms, been through recovery, will help them to help us recover.
Time for one more, guys.
Governor General, received information from some of the residents in Cameron Parish who are living in FEMA-owned housing from Hurricane Rita, and they are about to be kicked out of that housing as of May 1st. Some of whom will have no option but to move out of the parish. And I wondered if there's any hope that this deadline might be extended to give them some hope that they can wait for our housing initiatives to take place.
Sure, and a couple of things. Well, and Paul Rainwater is here, and he can certainly follow up with you on some of the housing options that are available. One of the issues, though, is you may remember when we appealed to FEMA, when we questioned their decision to use these DFIR maps, one of their hard requirements was that we had to move this housing, the temporary housing, out of their so-called V zones before the start of the hurricane season. Now, again, this goes back to the larger issue. We contend that if they actually used either the maps that were being used right after Rita, or if they used the better science that we provided them, they'd realize many of these structures are still safe, many of these locations are still safe. We think it makes more sense for people to live near their homes, near their jobs, rather than having to commute multiple hours and long distances to come back to their work sites, to come back to repair their homes. We continue to push FEMA to reconsider their thoughts on this, their deadlines on this, and it again goes back to this issue of the elevations and the maps. we continue to push them. We don't think it's realistic to ask people to have to drive 2 hours, for example, in many cases, to get to a job site or to get to a construction site where they're rebuilding their homes. Let me emphasize this again. I can't say this strongly enough. Our people are committed to rebuilding safely. They are using these grants to elevate their homes, their businesses. They want to build more. They want to build in a safer way. They're committed to doing that. But they also want to build based on the best science and the best maps. So we absolutely continue to try to push with FEMA. Now, the good news is you heard from some of the local officials that both of our senators are also committed to this, and they've expressed some movement in their recent conversations with the folks at FEMA. We're going to continue to push with FEMA to push back not only that temporary deadline, but also to look at this issue of the maps. Let me emphasize how important this is. You've got dozens of projects that have already been obligated, where FEMA dollars were already committed to the reconstruction of schools and public infrastructure. If they make the decision to de-obligate these dollars, all of a sudden that calls into question the entire rebuilding process for the schools and the infrastructure people need to live down here. So one of the reasons we spent so much time today talking with the President and the Secretary about these two issues, and especially the maps issue, is that it has a profound impact on the speed, the pace, and our ability to recover. Again, we've got some cautious optimism based on the conversations between FEMA and our senators, based on the nomination of Craig. But we don't have any firm answers yet from FEMA. And I want to make the point, I don't think they need a change in the law. I think they've got the ability within the existing Stafford Act to do what we're asking them to do. Obviously, there's some legal options available to the parish that they were also reserving and they will pursue if they need to. But to answer your question, absolutely, we're pushing with FEMA to try to extend those deadlines. I agree with people that it makes sense to allow them to live closer to their work sites, their homes. The other thing that the local officials made a point to the President and the Secretary, which I think is a very good point, our people know to evacuate. One of the reasons you didn't have the fatalities in Rita and Ike is that when the warnings came, and I want to praise the local responders, the local OEP, I want to praise the sheriff, the other folks that are here in this room. When the warnings came, people got out of harm's way. And so people know that if they've got a trailer, that if they're living in temporary housing and another storm, and we're all praying for a quiet hurricane season, don't get me wrong. But if the storms come, they're going to get out of harm's way. We didn't see the mass fatalities in 05 and in 08 in Southwest Louisiana that you saw with Audrey, in part because our people will evacuate. I know it was a long answer, but it's something we feel very, very strongly about. The President, to his credit and the Secretary's credit, they asked us, if we could wave a magic wand, I'll paraphrase, if we could do anything, what would be some of the most important things we could do to help you? And we emphasized helping us getting this elevation issue resolved would be the single best thing they could do to help speed up the recovery here. And I think with their leadership, with the voices of our local leaders, I'm confident they'll be able to try to push Washington to get this done.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.